The pilot's dreams. Welcome back to Alien Love Stories. Tonight's story is not about a spaceship war, nor a battle for survival, but something even more fragile and harder to find. Memory. What if the one who loved you across galaxies, across lifetimes came back, but you didn't remember them? Would your soul still recognize theirs? Would the stars align again, just for the two of you? Listen closely, because sometimes the most powerful signal isn't one sent through satellites, but through the heart. Interior, Leo's apartment, night. The room is silent, dimly lit by the glow of a digital clock. 3:17. Leo Vance lies sprawled across his bed, sweat glistening on his brow. His chest rises and falls rapidly. He's not resting. He's somewhere else. A vast space field. Stars swirl above. Giant rings of light arc through the blackness. The air isn't breathable, but somehow he's alive. A heartbeat echoes faintly. Across from him stands a woman. She is glowing, not blindingly, but with a soft, ethereal radiance. Her white hair floats around her like strands of light. She's wearing something that seems woven from stardust and memory. Her eyes, they know him. She takes a step forward, reaching for him. Her lips move, but no sound. Then he hears it, finally. Her voice, soft and sad, carried on a wave of memory. Leo. He doesn't answer. She's crying. Behind her, a blinding rift opens, like space tearing apart. She's being pulled back. No, wait, he calls out, but she's already gone. Leo bolts upright in bed, gasping for air. His hands tremble. He stares ahead, the image of the woman still burned into his vision, her voice still ringing in his ears. He gets up, stumbles to the sink, splashes water on his face. In the mirror, his eyes look hollow, haunted. This isn't the first time he's seen her, and he knows it won't be the last. Cut 2, exterior, aerospace research facility. Day. Leo, now in uniform, walks toward a secure hangar, coffee in hand, sunglasses hiding tired eyes. A technician waves. Another rough night, Commander? Leo doesn't answer, just gives a tired smile and nods. He walks past the massive test ship stationed inside the hangar, his project, his mission. But his thoughts, still with her, and far, far away, on the edge of Earth's atmosphere, something begins to shimmer. Something not from this world. The Woman Who Fell from the Sky, English version. The next morning, the sky above the test base was perfectly clear. Leo stepped out of the technical briefing room, helmet in one hand, sunlight catching the edge of his jaw. He looked tired, but no one asked. They were used to it. The way he always seemed a little distant. Only Leo knew the truth. The dreams were getting too real. Last night she had whispered his name again, not in any known language, but in a way that made his heart tremble. She stood in the dream like she had before, surrounded by a cold blue light. And this time, when she reached for him, she cried. Leo shook it off and entered the cockpit of his test aircraft. Today's mission was routine, a test flight into the upper atmosphere to evaluate new navigation software. But for Leo, it was an escape. Up there, the world below felt far enough away. So did the dreams. As the jet accelerated into the thinning air, his instruments remained steady until the radar lit up. Central, this is Phoenix 1. I've got an unidentified object falling fast toward Desert Sector 17. No known satellite matches. The object was dropping too fast. No trajectory, no burn pattern. Copy Phoenix 1. Can you confirm visual? Leo angled the aircraft. The sun glinted off a streak of pale blue fire, slicing through the sky like a silent comet. Seconds later it hit. No explosion, no smoke. Just a soft pulse, like the desert had exhaled. Leo landed his jet nearby on emergency protocol. With 2 engineers in tow, he rushed toward the impact site. And that's where he saw her, a woman, lying in a shallow crater, surrounded by scorched sand, dressed in something otherworldly. Her white hair shimmered in the sun. Her skin glowed faintly, with a soft, translucent sheen like water over moonlight. Her clothing flickered at the edges, shifting between fabric and something that defied gravity. She wasn't breathing. She wasn't bleeding. But Leo knew. She was alive. He stepped forward, slowly, carefully. "Hey, can you hear me?" And then, her eyes opened. Eyes he had seen before, in dreams. Eyes that held galaxies. She looked straight at him, unblinking. And without moving her lips, he heard her voice inside his head. "At last, I found you." Leo froze. The engineers behind him whispered in confusion. He didn't know who she was, but his heart remembered her, the memory in her blood. The examination room inside the aerospace facility had never hosted anything or anyone like her. Vera lay still under the soft lighting, her body resting on a medical bench surrounded by scanners and monitors that struggled to process what they were seeing. Electrodes had been attached, thermal readers activated, and yet the data didn't make sense. Leo stood just outside the glass wall, watching through the transparent barrier with quiet intensity. A senior medic beside him scrolled through the readings, frowning. "No vital signs in the traditional sense," the medic muttered. "No heartbeat, no blood pressure, but somehow she's alive. Her skin temperature is internally regulated. Cell regeneration is off the charts. Frankly," he looked at Leo, lowering his voice, "she shouldn't exist." Leo didn't respond. He was still staring at her. She looked so human, fragile even, but something deep in his bones told him she wasn't. Not completely, not anymore. Maybe not ever. The door behind him opened. Another technician stepped in with a vial of blood. "We drew a sample. I think you should see this." Leo followed him back into the lab, where the blood sample had been placed under magnification. It shimmered, not red, but opalescent, a subtle silver hue shifting like light on the surface of a bubble. When viewed under ultraviolet light, it pulsed in a rhythm. Not a heartbeat, something deeper, a pattern, a code. The tech looked at Leo. "Her blood is storing data." "Like DNA?" Leo asked. "Like a memory drive, or maybe even a message." Leo felt the hairs on his arm stand up. Back in the observation room, Vera stirred. She sat up slowly, movements fluid and quiet, like someone waking from a 1,000-year sleep. No fear, no confusion, just recognition. Leo stepped inside before anyone could stop him. She looked at him, eyes bright, alive. "You remember nothing," she said gently. Leo blinked. "I've seen you before, in my dreams." "You've seen me in your soul." She stood now, her bare feet silent on the tile floor. The room filled with a strange tension, not threat, but resonance. "Your body belongs to this world," she continued, "but your spirit once stood among stars." Leo was silent. Then, "You said you found me. Why?" She stepped closer. "Because in another life, you died for mine, and I wasn't ready to let you go." Silence. Her eyes shimmered, not with power, but with something far more dangerous. Grief. "My name is Vera," she said, "and I came across space and time, not to conquer your world, but to reclaim what was lost." Leo swallowed hard. Everything logical in his mind screamed for distance, for answers, for science. But his heart, it simply beat faster, as if remembering her name. What the stars tried to erase the room had grown quieter, not because anyone had left, but because everything had changed. Vera sat near the window now, draped in a soft gray blanket. Her gaze followed the sunlight as it cut across the floor, curious and calm, like someone who hadn't seen light in centuries, or perhaps someone who had seen too much of it. Leo stood across from her, arms crossed, still trying to wrap his head around her words. "You said I died, for you, in another life." Vera nodded slowly. "You were a soldier, not on Earth, somewhere else, a star system that no longer exists." Her voice was soft, but each word carried the weight of something real, something not just remembered, but lived. Leo didn't interrupt. He just watched her. "There was a war," she continued. "My people were being hunted, exterminated, system by system. You weren't from my world, but you fought for it. For me. And in the end, you stayed behind when I escaped. You made sure I lived. Her hand tightened around the edge of the blanket. I remembered you long after your world crumbled, and I tried to forget. The stars made me forget. Leo spoke at last. Why? She looked up. Because memory is dangerous when it's that deep, when it doesn't belong to this body, when it pulls at you across dimensions. A pause. But I couldn't forget you, no matter how much they erased, no matter how many light years I traveled. Leo ran a hand through his hair, shaken. That doesn't make sense. Why Earth? Why me? Vera stood and walked toward him, slowly. Your soul found its way here, reborn, changed, but still you. I felt it the moment I landed, the moment I saw your face. Her voice wavered, like something inside her was fraying at the edges. But I came here too late. The crossing, between dimensions, it's breaking me. If I don't find the tether between our past and your present, I'll fade, piece by piece. Leo swallowed. And if you do find it, she looked at him, then maybe we don't have to lose each other again. A long silence settled between them. Then Leo said quietly, I don't remember being that man, that life. Vera stepped closer, her expression unreadable. But you feel it, don't you? And he did. He couldn't explain it. But every time he looked at her, touched her, his chest ached like something buried deep was trying to claw its way back to the surface. Not love, not yet. Something older, a recognition. Suddenly, alarms blared in the facility. Red lights flashed. Leo spun toward the door. A voice crackled through the intercom. Unidentified object approaching Earth's atmosphere. Velocity, extreme. Trajectory, deliberate. Vera's face went pale. They found me. Leo turned to her. Who? She whispered it, not with fear, with certainty. The ones who tried to bury our past. The ones who never forgot sirens continued to blare across the aerospace facility. Red lights painted the white corridors in flashes of urgency. But to Leo, the sound faded beneath the weight of Vera's words. They found me. She stood still in the center of the room, body tense, eyes glowing faintly now, not with fear, but with the awareness of what was coming. Leo stepped toward her. Who exactly are they? She turned to him slowly, her voice quieter than the alarm. The Watchers, guardians of the rift between dimensions. They were created to protect the integrity of time, memory, and identity. So, what, you broke the rules by coming here? She nodded. I crossed a line that should never be crossed. I didn't just remember you. I chose to follow that memory, that emotion, and now I've made this world visible. Leo froze. Visible to what? To them, to everything they've kept out. Before he could respond, a voice came through the overhead speaker. Calm, clinical, emotionless. Commander Vance, please report to Base 7. You are needed immediately. Leo looked at her. I need to see what's happening. You stay here. But Vera was already shaking her head. Number. Wherever you go, they'll find me. It's not just you they're after. It's what we are. Together. Base 7. 10 minutes later, the bay doors slid open with a hiss. Leo and Vera stepped onto the main control platform overlooking the hangar. Military personnel and scientists rushed around below. On a large monitor, an object streaked toward Earth. No heat trail, no chemical signature. Just a shadow, shaped like a spindle of dark metal, moving at impossible speed. We tried hailing it, a technician reported. No response. It's slowing as it nears atmosphere, not burning. Leo turned to Vera. She was staring at the screen. That's not a ship, she whispered. That's a beacon. A beacon for what? She turned to him slowly. For those who still remember what we were. At that moment, the object entered the upper atmosphere. It didn't crash. It simply stopped, hovering high above the Earth like a second moon, casting no shadow, emitting no sound. Then, a ripple of energy. Every light in the facility dimmed. Some flickered out. The air changed. People began to move slower, like the world was buffering, and only Vera remained unaffected. She walked toward the window, placing her hand on the glass. They're sending a message. Leo stepped up beside her. What does it say? She closed her eyes. It says, return, or the world you've chosen will forget you ever existed. Leo looked at her. Can they really do that? She nodded. They won't kill me. They'll erase the memory of me. From Earth. From you. From every timeline I ever touched. Leo's jaw clenched. So what now? You go back and let them erase everything? She looked up at him, eyes shining with grief, but something else too. Defiance. No, she said. Not this time. Outside the atmosphere, the object pulsed again, and from it, figures emerged. Not ships, not beings. Echoes, faint translucent shadows of people long gone. Warriors, scholars, ancient souls. All of them converging toward one point. And Leo saw it then. They weren't coming for Earth. They were coming for her. The soul that refused to fade. The world stood still. Time frayed at the edges. Above Earth, the beacon hovered in silence, and from it poured the echoes, spectral figures of light and memory, each one a fragment of lives that had once known Vera. They drifted, converging into the atmosphere like falling stars no one could see, except her. Inside the facility, the lights had dimmed to a dull pulse. No alarms now, no orders, only tension that filled the air like static before a storm. Vera stood at the center of it all, eyes fixed on the sky, her breath steady, but her hands trembling. Leo moved beside her, searching her face. What are they waiting for? She looked at him. For me to surrender, to step back into the forgetting. If I do, the earth goes untouched. You go on, never remembering I was here. And if you don't, Vera's eyes flickered gold, then they will come down and erase me themselves, forcefully, and anyone near me could be caught in the collapse. Leo exhaled, trying to hold it together. You crossed time and space to find me. You remembered a life I've forgotten. And now they want to wipe that out like it never mattered? She smiled, just barely. To them, memory without permission is dangerous. But to me, memory is everything. She turned to him fully, her voice trembling. I've already started to fade. Look, she lifted her hand. The edges of her fingers shimmered, glitching, like static, the outline of her body flickering in and out of phase. This world is rejecting me, but I still have one choice left. Leo stepped closer. Which is, if you remember me, truly remember, I can anchor here. Memory is stronger than time, but I can't do it alone. His heart thudded. He didn't have her memories, but he had something. That ache in his chest, that echo in his bones, that feeling every time she looked at him like he was home. He reached out, took her hand. Then show me. She hesitated, then placed both hands over his heart and whispered, Let me in. A surge of light. Leo's pupils dilated. And then, the past flooded in, a battlefield of stars, her screaming his name as he collapsed, his body shielding hers as the sky shattered, a kiss as he faded, a promise. If there's a place beyond time, I'll find you again. Back in the present, Leo gasped, eyes wide with tears. He remembered. All of it. Her. Them. Everything. And as the echoes descended, Vera stopped fading. The shimmer vanished. Her feet touched the ground, solid. Her form held together, light no longer glitching. The sky rippled and the echoes paused. A wave of confusion. Then, they bowed, one by one. The guardian spirits, beings from before time, acknowledged the impossible. That a soul had defied forgetting. That love had pulled memory through dimensions. And so, the beacon dimmed. The figures faded, and silence returned to the sky. Leo stood there, trembling. Vera stepped into his arms. You remembered me. He held her tighter. You never left. The light that couldn't be contained. The air outside had changed. Not in temperature, not in smell, but in weight. The world felt newly formed, as if time had just taken a breath for the first time in eons. Back inside the facility, the power returned. Monitors flickered to life. Technicians stirred from their stupor, unaware of what had just passed overhead. or how close they'd come to witnessing the erasure of something eternal. But Leo knew, and so did Vera. They walked side by side through the quiet corridor, their steps soft, their hands still intertwined. For a moment, they didn't speak. There were no words left big enough to hold what they had just reclaimed. At the far end of the hall, the general awaited them, stern, skeptical, flanked by security. But even he faltered when he saw Vera. There was no denying it now. Her presence didn't just fill the room, it bent it. "You shouldn't be here," the general said, voice low, uncertain. "She belongs here," Leo replied. "Says who?" "Says the sky that tried to erase her and failed." Vera stepped forward. "You wanted proof. You felt it. The system's shutting down. The anomaly above us." She held out her hand, and a thin stream of light bloomed from her palm, twisting midair into a shape. A symbol made of language that wasn't human. But it resonated. Everyone in the room felt its meaning, even if they couldn't name it. Belonging. "I came across galaxies, not to conquer, but to remember. And now I do." The general said nothing. No one dared. Vera turned back to Leo, but as she did, she staggered. Just slightly, but enough. Leo caught her. "Vera!" She took a slow breath, then shook her head. "It's okay. I'm okay." But she wasn't. The light in her eyes flickered. Not like before. This was something different. She looked at her hands. They glowed brighter than ever, but they weren't steady. They were leaking. Energy bled from her fingertips. "I thought the remembering would anchor me here," she said quietly. "But my body wasn't meant to hold this much for this long." Leo's jaw clenched. "Number. We just got you back. There has to be a way." Vera smiled. "This isn't an ending. It's a transition. What I became to find you can't remain in this form forever." She reached for his face, her fingers warm, buzzing softly with light. "But you made me real, not just a projection, not a vessel, a person. That's something no dimension can contain." Tears welled in his eyes. "Then let me go with you." But she shook her head. "You still have a life here. Music, flight, love. Let this be the moment you remember everything and still choose to live." She kissed him, slow, soft, like sealing a memory into his bones. And as her glow grew, her form softened, became less defined, like the edges of a dream. Her voice, calm, steady, absolute. "Don't mourn me. I'm not gone, I'm just expanding." One final shimmer, then silence. Vera dissolved into light, not into death, not into absence, but into everywhere. And Leo, alone now beneath the quiet dome of the sky, smiled through tears. Because this time, he wouldn't forget. Memory written in light. Weeks passed. The world continued, oblivious to the moment it had teetered on the edge of forgetting something eternal. The facility returned to routine. Reports were filed, anomalies archived under top-secret clearances, and the skies, quiet again, showed no sign of the beacon or the beings who once drifted through its atmosphere. But for Leo, nothing was the same. He walked differently now, thought differently. The wind felt familiar. The stars above whispered in patterns he didn't recognize with his mind. But his soul responded. Every morning he returned to the same hill overlooking the sea, a place Vera once stood, watching sunlight as if it were a language only she could understand. He'd sit there for hours, not waiting, not hoping, just remembering. One morning he brought his journal and wrote, "She didn't leave. She became. Not a ghost, not a god, but something more honest. A memory we're not meant to forget." He closed the book and looked up at the sky. And then it happened. A flicker in the clouds. Not thunder, not lightning, a pattern. Faint gold strands of light crisscrossed the sky for 3 seconds, just enough to form a symbol. The same symbol Vera once created in the air, the one that meant belonging. Leo stood, heart pounding. The light faded, no sound, no proof. No one else saw, but he did, and he smiled. He walked down the hill, not in grief, but with purpose. Back to the hangar, Back to the skies. Interior, hangar. Night Leo opened a private storage locker. Inside, an old flight helmet. A set of blueprints for a craft that had never been built. A photograph from his childhood. Stars drawn on the edges in messy ink. And beneath them all, a glowing fragment of crystal. Vera's. He held it in his hand. It pulsed once. Soft, warm. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He just whispered, "I remember." And somewhere, between worlds, beyond the speed of light, outside time itself, something pulsed in response. Echoes in the void night returned with no ceremony. The wind howled over the mountains, slipping through the air bases, fencing like it was looking for something. Or someone. Inside his private quarters, Leo sat at his desk in silence. The room lit only by the dim glow of the crystal fragment lying at the center. It pulsed slowly, like a quiet heartbeat. But tonight, it flickered, erratic, then faster. And suddenly, it stopped. Leo blinked. The world around him shifted. Subtle at first. The desk warped slightly. The books on the shelves blurred at the edges and the walls began to breathe. He stood up, heart racing, grabbing the crystal. Just as everything went black. Elsewhere. Nowhere. Leo opened his eyes, but he wasn't standing anymore. He was floating, weightless, alone, surrounded by stars, distant, cold, endless, but still somehow familiar. The void around him pulsed with low tones, not threatening, not empty, listening. And then he heard it, her voice, not from any direction, from inside him. "You remembered." He spun slowly in the dark. "Vera!" The space rippled. A silhouette appeared. She wasn't fully formed, just light, drifting in the shape of the woman he remembered. Hair of mist, hands made of memory, but her eyes were still hers. Leo moved closer. "Where am I?" "Where we were before the beginning, between dimensions, between endings. You came because the crystal heard you. It's a tether, but only if you still believe." "Believe in what?" She smiled gently. "That love doesn't end, that the soul doesn't vanish, that memory is a kind of immortality." Tears welled in his eyes. "I tried to forget. I tried to live, but everything in me still echoes you." She reached out, fingers grazing his chest, not with pressure, but with warmth. "You don't need to live in longing. This doesn't have to be goodbye." Leo swallowed hard. "Then what is it?" She paused, then whispered, "An invitation." And suddenly, light erupted. Thousands of symbols spun around them, spiraling through the void like constellations in motion. Time unraveled, reality bent, and Leo saw glimpses. Futures he hadn't lived, worlds he hadn't visited, lifetimes where they might find each other again. He looked at her. "Will I remember this? If you choose to." The light folded in on itself. The symbols vanished, and Leo woke. Back in his room, alone. The crystal sat cold on the desk, but etched into the wall, without fire, without blade, was a single glowing mark, the symbol of belonging. A universe rewritten by love. Dawn broke softly over the base, casting long, golden shadows across the hangar floors. Outside, the world carried on. Jets lifted off into the morning sky. Technicians exchanged coffee and duty logs, and the rhythms of Earth moved forward without pause. But Leo Vance stood at the edge of it all, changed. He wasn't looking at the sky like a pilot. He was listening, like a man who'd heard the stars speak. In his hand, the crystal fragment now glowed steadily. No longer just a relic. It pulsed in harmony with his own heartbeat. No longer a memory, but a bridge. A voice echoed faintly in his mind. Not a warning, not a goodbye, but a beginning. "Wherever you go, I will remember the path back." He closed his hand around the crystal, breathed deep, and stepped into the cockpit of a new craft. A prototype, one that had never flown before. Not until now. He looked up through the canopy as the sun climbed higher. Not toward war, not toward a mission, but toward something more important. A promise. As the engines ignited, the ship lifted gently from the runway, smooth, effortless, and for a brief moment, as he broke through the clouds, the sky shimmered, not with heat or glare or tech, but with her, just light, just presence, a brush of memory in the morning wind. And Leo smiled, speaking into the silence. I'll find you again. Far beyond Earth's orbit, on a distant curve of the universe, a shimmer answered. The universe, ever expanding, ever reaching, had bent, just slightly, to make room for the impossible. Two souls who remembered each other through space, time, and light. Not lost, just waiting. The hill that remembers. Leo sat again on the same hill above the sea. The morning wind brushed his hair. He no longer brought his journal. He just watched. The world had returned to its rhythm. Planes flew overhead, ships passed on the horizon. But to Leo, everything felt quieter, like the universe was holding its breath. And then, without sound or warning, a pulse shimmered through the clouds. Not a beacon, not a ship, a wave, like a sigh from the stars. His crystal flickered in his hand, but this time it didn't glow. It projected. A symbol appeared, hovering in the air before him. Not the symbol of belonging, but something new. Leo stood. He didn't understand what it meant, but he felt it. An invitation. The door that shouldn't be there. Back at the facility, Leo requested access to a long-abandoned test chamber, one buried beneath Hangar C, locked since before he joined the program. The guards hesitated, but something in his voice made them move. As he stepped inside, the lights flickered to life. The chamber was circular, empty, silent, until the crystal in his hand flared, and a door appeared, where there had never been one. It wasn't made of metal, or energy, or anything earthly. It looked like memory, like the shape of something he had once walked through in a dream. Leo hesitated. Then he placed his palm on it. The door opened. The place between places beyond the doorway, the world melted. He stood in a corridor of stars, not space, but an in-between, a realm that pulsed with thought, with longing, with echoes of every life ever lived. And then he saw her, not Vera as she was, but as she had been across lifetimes, a warrior with fire in her hands, a scholar of stardust, a wanderer across black holes, and finally, a woman standing in a sunlit field waiting for him. She smiled. Vera, you remembered me once. Now, let me remember you. She reached for him. This time he didn't hesitate. He took her hand, and the corridor lit up. The fusion of memory and becoming. The universe rippled. No longer just memory. This was fusion. As their hands touched, a pulse of light burst outward, not destructive, but expansive. Vera no longer flickered. She became whole, a being both remembered and real. And Leo? He felt his body shifting, not changing shape, but resonance. Like every lifetime, every version of him had finally aligned. Vera, this place, it wasn't built, it was dreamed. Leo, by us? Vera, by what we refused to forget. Together they stood at the center of the dreaming, where no war could reach, where watchers could not erase, where love wrote the rules. Back to the sky. They returned, not in a ship, not in light, but as themselves. The hill was still there. So was the sea. Only now the world felt awake. Leo walked beside Vera, no longer hiding her in shadows or fear. The sun kissed her skin. The wind wrapped around her. A technician passed by, stared at her with awe. No memory had been erased. No silence had returned. They had won, but it hadn't been a battle. It had been a choice. Vera turned to Leo. Vera, do you still fly? Leo, smiling. Always. She held out her hand. Vera, then let's go higher this time. And as their fingers touched, the symbol appeared again, glowing faintly in the sky. A mark for any soul still searching, a sign for any heart still remembering. And somewhere across galaxies, echoes stirred. Love once forgotten was now part of the universe itself. The library of the forgotten interior, beyond the corridor of stars. Leo and Vera walk hand in hand through a vast chamber of light and silence. The air hums with memory. Above them, countless glowing threads drift like constellations, but closer, like floating neurons. Some pulse, some flicker, others hang dimly, nearly erased. Vera, these are memories too old to live in bodies, but too strong to die. Leo, whose memories? Vera, softly. Everyone's. Yours. Mine. The ones they erased. The ones they thought they'd buried. She points toward a glowing orb, small and violet. It hovers gently, pulsing in time with Leo's heart. Vera, this one is yours from before. Leo reaches out instinctively, but she stops him. Vera, touch it and you'll remember everything. All of it. Every version of yourself. Every moment. Pain, sacrifice, death. Leo, what happens if I do? Vera, you might not want to stay who you are. A long pause. Leo, what if I've never really been who I am? The trial of memory interior. Memory chamber. The orb drops into Leo's palm. Instantly, the room darkens. He's pulled into a maelstrom of sensation, past lives flooding him all at once. He's a pilot in a binary star war zone, a monk on a desert moon, a rebel who died saving a planet that later betrayed him, a child in a snowy village who used to sketch stars in the dirt, and finally, Vera, always Vera, watching him, reaching, losing him. The last memory cuts deepest. He dies shielding her. Again, but this time he watches himself whisper something as his heart stops. If I have to be born 1,000 times just to find you again, I will. Leo drops to his knees in the present. Leo, voice cracking. I don't want to forget again. Vera holds him, eyes wet. Vera, then we rewrite the rules. The Watchers return. A rift opens in the corridor. The Watchers return, not as enemies but as echoes of cosmic law. They don't speak in words but through overwhelming presence, the chamber responds. Light dims. First Watcher, you defy what has been written. Leo, stepping forward. No, I remember what was erased. Second Watcher, this soul has crossed too many thresholds. It is unstable. Vera, so stabilize us. Make memory a foundation, not a crime. A pause. The chamber waits. The third Watcher, oldest, smallest, flickering faintly, approaches. For a moment, everything stills. And then, third Watcher, faint whisper. Perhaps love is a higher law. The creation of a place that never was exterior, the edge of time. Leo and Vira stand at the boundary, a place that doesn't exist on any star chart, where even the universe stops to think. They are offered a choice, either return to Earth, where no one remembers, or create a new plane of reality, a between, a safe place for all forgotten souls to gather, to live, to love, to remember. Leo, quietly, will we be gods? Vera, no, just witnesses. They hold hands and begin. The city of remembering exterior, a new world. A city rises, not with machines or tools, but through memory, built from thought, from shared dreams, from every life Leo and Vera ever touched. Children with stardust eyes laugh in fields of golden wind. Old warriors sip tea on crystal balconies, watching time flow backward and forward. Artists sketch galaxies into the sky with brushstrokes made of song. And at the heart of it all, a monument, a sculpture of two figures holding hands. One human, one not. Their names aren't carved, but everyone knows. Far away, back on Earth, a child looks up at the stars. He holds a small crystal in his hand. It pulses. He doesn't know why it comforts him, or why his dreams are full of white-haired women and pilots with laughing eyes. He only knows this, that when he draws a symbol, the same one etched in light, belonging. And somewhere, just beyond time, Vera smiles. Leo laughs, and the stars shimmer in rhythm. Not ending, not beginning, just remembering. Some say love is a feeling, some say memory is fragile. But what if they're the same thing? You've just witnessed a story that didn't end with a goodbye, but with a remembering, a love so deep it rewrote space, a memory so defiant it birthed a place that never existed until two souls decided it should. We often think forgetting is passive, but maybe the greatest rebellion is to remember anyway. And maybe the universe, in all its cold logic, bends just slightly for those who dare to carry love across lifetimes. Thank you for traveling with us through alien love stories. And if one day you feel a presence beside you no one else sees, if your heart aches for someone you've never met, don't run from it. You're not haunted. You're being called home.